The 2017 Peugeot 308 Active has been part of the CarAdvice long-term fleet for the past few months, and over that time we've put quite a few Ks on the car, and more importantly we've been figuring out what it's like to live with it. And while generally it is an impressive little French hatchback, there are some aspects of it that might be deal breakers for some buyers. The Active is now the base model version of the Peugeot 308 range after the brand axed a bunch of different variants from the lineup late in 2016, but at $27,990 plus on road costs, it's more of a mid-range player when you consider its competitive set. So, what do you get for your cash? There's a touchscreen media system with sat-nav, a rear-view camera, LED daytime running lights and alloy wheels. There's no leather trim, but you do get dual-zone climate control. There's something to be said of the Peugeot's packaging. It's one of the smallest, if not the smallest hatches in the segment, but it's got a massive boot. The space back here is 425 litres, which is easily enough for a couple of suitcases or a pram. And the back seat space is generous as well. There's adequate head, knee and toe room for a 6-foot tall adult and all the necessary child seat anchor points that you could possibly need. There are no cup holders back here, but it's a French car, so what else can you expect? But you do get side door pocket storage and mat pocket storage as well. You know what sucks though? There are no rear air vents. And you know what else sucks? This media system. Unlike most cars which have an array of buttons on the center console to make quick adjustments to the stereo or the air conditioning, everything in the Peugeot 308 runs through this top screen. And while that can seem pretty cool and techy at first, it can also be a real pain in the ass. Let me show you one example of how that could be the case. It's a hot day. You get in the car and fire up the aircon to maximum fan and minimum temp. You've got to get to a meeting at a cafe you've never been to before, so you plug the destination into the sat-nav. You're getting close, but the traffic is frustrating you as you try and find the place. And then you realise that you can't concentrate because you've turned the fan up so high. Now the fan's blowing freezing air, but you can't quickly twist a knob to lower the temperature or the fan speed. Instead, you'll have to remember which hieroglyphic on the edge of the screen refers to the temperature settings, and then you'll frantically hit the illustrated buttons on the screen and wait for the fan speed to drop and the temperature to change. All of this might take as much as 10 seconds, where if you just had a good old-fashioned knob to twist, it could take a fraction of that. And that's if you didn't miss that turn off or run a red light in the process. So that can be annoying, and so can the load times of the screen. You might find that it can take a few seconds for it to figure out that you need the rear view camera to be showing up, particularly if you've just started the car and whopped it into reverse. And those little buttons on the edge of the screen? Well, the ones you'll use most, the navigation and media and temperature, are all on the far side of the screen, which could be an issue if you're a shorter driver because you might not be able to reach. All that aside, the cabin is pleasant enough, if a little bit bland, and it can't match some of its more thoughtful competitors when it comes to cup holder storage. There's only one. Some people may not like the driving position. It's Peugeot's iCockpit with a tiny little steering wheel that you look over the top of rather than through to see the digital speedometer. And for me, I find it quite good. I get the steering wheel nice and low in my lap, probably lower than I would usually like, but I can see everything I need to see. Other people in the office swear it's French ergonomics at its worst. But what we all agree on is that it's a good little thing to drive. Powering this little pug is a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine with 96 kilowatts of power and 230 newton meters of torque. That torque figure is the important one because you're relying on the low and mid-range urge of the engine rather than revving it out to the high end. But it is surprisingly quick. It weighs just 1,150 kilos, which means it feels pretty sprightly. And the 6-speed automatic is generally pretty good. The shifts are smooth and relatively smart. Because it's so light, it does feel quite nimble. When you push it through corners with a bit more pace, you'll notice that it's quite engaging to drive, and it never feels heavy through corners either. The ride comfort of the 308 is exceptional. It deals with lumps and bumps on the road really well, whether it's sharp edges or sort of rolling undulations. And that's because it's got quite soft damping, much softer than most of its rivals in the class. That can mean that it doesn't feel quite as tied down on the road, but it is more comfortable than pretty much everything else out there. The engine can be a bit vibey at low speeds and at idle, but on the open road at higher speeds, it revs quite cleanly. And the refinement levels are really good on the open road. There's not a lot of road noise or a lot of wind noise either. People might associate the Mazda 3 with being the best small car to drive, but the Peugeot 308 is a bit of a surprise package. In fact, it's pretty much on the same level as the Mazda 3 for driver enjoyment. So after a few months behind the wheel of the Peugeot 308 Active, some things have stuck out to me. The engine is characterful and charming, although we haven't seen anywhere near the 5.2 litres per 100 claim that Peugeot has. We've seen more like 8 litres per 100. But that doesn't detract from the fact that it is a lovely, nice little car to drive. That said, if I was in the market for a small car, I probably couldn't buy it because of that media system. Everyone will be different, so we'll leave it up to you to decide for yourself.